Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. Today, we are sitting down with a true chameleon of the silver screen, a man who gave us everything from a singing knight to a legendary anarchist. For those who may somehow not know who you are you?
Well, I'm Heath Ledger, just an Australian boy who loved to tell stories and maybe got a bit lucky along the way.
You certainly did. Let's go back to the beginning. When and where were you born?
I was born on April 4th, 1979, in a beautiful place called Perth over in Western Australia. It's a bit isolated, which honestly makes for a great playground when you're a kid.
And what was your given name at birth? Was there a story behind it?
My full name was Heathcliff Andrew Ledger. My sister Kate and I were actually named after the main characters in Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. My parents, Sally and Kim, must have had a bit of a literary streak. I think Heathcliff sounds a lot more brooding than I actually was, but I've always liked the connection to the story.
That is such a cool origin story. What was your hometown like growing up?
Perth was wonderful. It was all about the outdoors, lots of space, sports, and sunshine. I played a lot of field hockey and was actually quite good at it. It felt safe and quiet, which was the perfect place to start dreaming.
And your family life? What kind of kid were you?
Family was everything. My mom was a French teacher, and my dad was a mining engineer and a race car driver. He even built the car that won the Australian Grand Prix. I was a restless kid, always moving, always curious. I had so much energy that my mind was always turning, even then.
Did you have any big fears back then? What did you dream of becoming?
I don't know if I had many fears. I was more of a dive-in kind of kid. I actually dreamed of being a race car driver like my dad for a while. But then I found drama in school.
Speaking of school, what were your favorite activities?
Definitely drama. In junior high, I had to choose between a cooking class and drama. I figured there'd be more girls in the drama class, so I picked that. Best decision I ever made. I also loved dance and anything that let me use that restless energy.
Classic. So, what was your first real job?
My first professional acting gig was on a show called Sweat, where I played a gay cyclist. It was a big deal for me because it was such a specific, challenging role right out of the gate.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different or that you had something special?
I don't know about special, but I knew I was different in that I couldn't stand to be still. I felt like I was vibrating on a different frequency sometimes. When I was 16, I graduated early and drove across the country to Sydney with my best friend Trevor, just to see if we could make it. We had 69 cents between us when we arrived. That was the moment I realized I was all in.
That's a massive leap. What would you say was your biggest break?
10 Things I Hate About You. It changed my life overnight. Suddenly, I was this quote-unquote teen heartthrob, which was a bit terrifying, honestly.
I bet. What were your biggest struggles before that success?
Just the uncertainty. Being 17 in a big city like Sydney, trying to find work, sleeping on floors. But I loved the hustle. I think the struggle makes the success feel more real.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Never. I had moments where I wanted to quit the direction I was going, like when I felt typecast as the pretty boy, but I never wanted to stop acting. I actually stopped working for a whole year after 10 Things, just to wait for a role that felt gritty and real. I felt like I had to destroy my career to rebuild it into something I actually respected.
That takes a lot of guts. Were there any daily habits or routines you felt were essential?
I was a night owl. I loved the quiet of the early morning hours, around 3 or 4 a.m., to think and create. I also carried a camera and a diary everywhere. Documenting life helped me make sense of it. For the Joker, I locked myself in a hotel room for a month and kept a Joker diary filled with clippings and thoughts to find that voice.
What job would you have had if the fame never happened?
I think I would have been a director or a photographer. I was always more comfortable behind the lens than in front of it, or maybe something involving chess. I loved the strategy of it.
How did relationships change after the success?
It gets harder to know who is real, but then you find people who ground you. Meeting Michelle Williams on the set of Brokeback Mountain was cosmic. She was my soulmate for a long time, and our daughter Matilda became the absolute light of my life.
Did fame bring you happiness? What was the downside?
Fame itself? No. It's quite uncomfortable, actually. The downside was the loss of privacy. I had a bit of a war with the paparazzi back home in Australia. They could be quite intrusive. Happiness came from the work and from being a dad, not the fame.
What's a misconception people had about you?
That I was this dark, brooding person because of the roles I played. I was actually quite joyful. I loved to laugh. I loved magic tricks and I loved people. I just happened to find the dark corners of the human mind interesting to explore on screen.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
People thought I was losing it while playing the Joker because I stayed in character, but I was having the time of my life. It was the most fun I ever had as an actor. I wasn't suffering, I was playing.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how you handled it.
Early on when I moved to LA, I was so nervous at auditions that I'd practically shake. I once walked out of a huge audition because I just couldn't breathe. I handled it by realizing that I had to stop caring about the result and just start caring about the art. Once I stopped trying to please people, the work got better.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My sister, Kate. She was always my biggest supporter. And my dad for teaching me that if you're going to do something, you do it with everything you've got.
What were you working on in your career toward the end?
I was working on the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus with Terry Gilliam. It was such a wild, imaginative project. I was also directing music videos and working with a collective called The Masses. I was really finding my voice as a director.
When and where did you pass and how old were you?
I was only 28 when I passed away from an accidental overdose in Lower Manhattan, New York on January 22nd, 2008.
What's a random fact about you most people haven't heard?
I was a really high-level chess player. I used to play against the old pros in Washington Square Park. I was actually planning to direct a film about a chess prodigy before I passed.
What was your favorite food or restaurant?
I loved simple things. Italian food was always a winner. There was a little place in Brooklyn I used to go to all the time when I lived there, just to feel like a normal person.
What advice would you give to people chasing success?
Don't chase the success. Chase the joy. If you're doing it for the money or the fame, you'll always be hungry. But if you do it because you love the process, you've already won. And remember, happiness is the only thing on the checklist that truly matters.
Heath, do you have any closing remarks or stories you'd like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
Just that life is a beautiful, messy ride. Don't be afraid to take the blonde out of your career and try something scary. It's been an absolute blast chatting with you, Calvin. Thanks for letting me tell a few stories one more time.
Thank you so much, Heath. That was incredible. From Perth to Gotham, what a journey. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod